Raghunath, are you ready for this?
What?
The wisdom of the sages trainings that are going on.
Where?
At the Eco Village, the Govardhan Eco Village in India.
Why?
To totally transform your life spiritually.
Who?
You, me, Raghunath Swami's going to be there. Other great teachers are going to be there. Lots of cool people.
How?
You go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. You find all the information there.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Stuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. Welcome to Q&A Day. It's Sleeping Saturday. We've been sleeping in all this week, although, because we just got back from India. But yes, it's Saturday. We're here for your questions and your answers. Good morning,
I thought we do
Stuba.
the answering.
Yes. We're going to do the answers if it's okay. Not really. It's all our answers based on our
own questions.
Study, our practice, our seeing where things went right, when things went wrong, stuff like that.
Okay.
You know what I was fascinated by recently, Kastuba? It's been in the papers.
I'm a little afraid to ask, but what? What have you been fascinated by?
Chimpanzee attack woman.
You say
Chimpanzee
that.
attack woman. Nice chimpanzee. Man, in fact, a local favorite in Stamford, Connecticut. Someone knocked on the door, a friend of the family's came over, chimpanzee went berserk and ended up anyway, I'm not going to get gory, but tore the woman's face off. The woman needed a face transplant. This is all coming full circle, Kastuba. There's Krishna interesting stuff in here. And besides, the rampage of chimpanzee attacks that's been happening, there is also, sometimes people lose their face in other horrible ways, like a famous,
Raghunath.
Mara, did you just cover your face?
We didn't talk about this at all. This
it's just spontaneous inspiration.
Yeah.
But you can lose your
It doesn't sound like it was spontaneous. It sounds like you planned this.
Well, I was looking through a feed of sorts, and there was a thing about a chimpanzee attack. But my point is...
What is your point?
My point is you can do a face transplant nowadays, which means you can get an entirely new face. Like I could put a face that looks like Mara on you. Or I could get your face on me. My point is we are identifying with, we are falling in love with. I mean, people work their butt off to make a person with a particular face fall in love with them. My point is we're not a package. And therefore, when we base a lot of our life on external things, we're forgetting what we're actually falling in love with, which is a being. And if a face is so switchable, what is that person anyway? Are they the cheekbones? Are they the dark eyes? Are they the lips? You know what I mean? What are we actually falling in love with? All those things can be placed on in the same way you were to decorate a Mr. Potato Head. No, Mr. Potato Head wants a bigger nose today. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I suppose I do. In other words, okay, so you're saying we're identifying with something that's changeable. And those things are always shifting. Is that what you're getting at? And that there's no solid.
Yes.
Okay, I accept that.
Yeah. My point is, what are we falling in love with? And what is love? Is it love just based on a wrapping paper?
Okay.
Right.
Thank you for sharing that point, Raghunath.
You want to explore it deeper?
No, I don't. I don't.
It really had nothing to do with chimpanzees, and okay. Should we keep these animals anyway as pets?
Well, it had
more to do with how we base our whole life based on an external surface. That's what it had to do with.
Well, I suppose that there are things already like plastic surgery which can work relatively well, right?
Work miracles sometimes.
Yeah, and a lot of times people are trying, and it's actually making them less attractive. In most, but
sometimes.
So we're trying to fight nature that way,
right?
But what to speak of in the future, you might be able to do it more. What to speak if you're living in a metaverse, right? Wherein it's like the
Oh
whole
yeah,
thing
where your
can be.
face is like an emoji of sorts.
Yeah. So then I suppose people might think, oh, this is good that we can shift these things around more. I think most face transplants aren't going to be very smooth transitions,
Not yet.
Yeah, but who knows in the future and so on. But I suppose I get what you're getting at.
Right?
Yeah.
There was a depth behind that.
Well, there's a question today. Is it the first question? Yeah, it is. So that might tie into the first question, actually, Raghunath.
Duh.
All right. Why don't we get into it?
You think I'm just pure entertainment? There's some depth here, Kostuba. Trying to weave things together like a weaver. You can call me the weaver.
Okay,
like.
Mr. Weaver. Mr. Weaver, why don't we hear from Mara if there's any announcements today? And then
Mara's a little sick today. She's a little sick. She's not feeling so well.
Still not feeling so well.
Yeah, I've been sick since India. Back to recovery group meeting at 9:30 today.
9:30. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And then Radikesh's Intro to Vedic Astrology. It's going to be a 4-part series on Mondays at 6 p.m. starting this Monday for our Patreon members.
Excited for that. Patreon members.
Yeah.
Now and then Patreon member, now's the time. Now's the time to join patreon.com/wisdomofthesages. Support what we do, please. Thank you.
Okay. And then also tomorrow we're going to do Q&A again at the same time, right? 8 a.m.
There's a lot of Q's. And so they're stacking up. Let's take them on. Let's bring it home.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to start with a question from Noah it's an email question. And you have a question, you can write it in wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com and we'll put them in the file, answer it live.
Okay.
Hello. I'm writing here again. He's done it before. Now I'm listening to you guys every day. You have become the soundtrack of my work most of the time. It's calming. It's calming my mind because I can't listen to my music because it's sad. I like sad music and I can't handle it right now. So you are my distraction in a good way. Ooh, we're a distraction from the material distraction. Finding some, you know what? I used to think that like working in a toll booth would be like the worst thing ever. But thanks to Krishna consciousness, working in a toll booth can be like joy. You could listen to the Bhagavatam all day long.
Well, you're saying you wanted to restart your life. Maybe that's a direction you should look into.
You know what? When I say that, I sometimes I just feel like I just want a do-over. You're saying, we said this, like, I want a do-over. I want to redo childhood, redo junior high school, redo relationships, redeal the way I've treated my parents. I just want a do-over. And I guess in Krishna consciousness, we call that take another birth. And I sort of don't want that, but that's sort of what it's boiling down to.
Just start doing over starting today, right?
I know. Yes. But like yesterday, I lost my wallet. It's like, why do I do these things to myself? I drive my car to 8 miles before empty. 8 miles. This is like a regular thing in my life. And so it's like, you ever see that show 24? Like, you got to catch the criminal within 24 hours, they say, or else you can't catch them. Or it's very hard. It increases the chance you won't catch them. My wallet is like this. I lost it 24 hours ago, and I've been like going crazy. If I don't find it in 24 hours, it's like my hands are up in the air. Got to get all new credit cards. It's a mess. I just need a redo. I'm surprised I've made it this far in my life.
You're doing okay, Rogan. Hang in there. Let's. Why don't we start by answering this question, or at least reading it first?
Okay. Now here's my question: if you think it's possible to love someone or to love God without loving yourself,
okay,
I think that it's possible.
Well, let's read the whole thing. Oh, you are.
I'm reading.
Okay,
I'm not giving you my opinion.
He said
I'm giving you his opinion. I think that you thought I was squirreling myself.
Not squirreling, but I thought you were answering it before you had read the whole thing. So
okay, I think that it's possible, but I want to hear it from what you guys say about it. I have some quotes or takeaways sort of on this topic from you. What I really like was, this is from Kostuba: we don't need anything external to be happy, but the nature of the self is to love another.
Okay.
That was a quote from Kostuba. Here's my quote from Raghu: our duty is to love. So make all the thing with love for the people we love the people around us no matter what. But there is a small step to lose your self-love. But there is a small step to lose your self-love. I don't know. Let's talk about it. Thanks. I think he
Okay.
was.
So the question was, is it possible to love God or to love others if you don't first love yourself?
Sure.
And Noah's saying, I think it is possible. What do you guys think? Okay,
I
Ravana.
say, not really. Here's what I wrote about other people. I wrote, without self-love, our love to others in this world.
Can I ask a question before? What do we mean by self-love? What exactly does that mean?
Well, I could say the converse is self-loathing. Self-loathing, where you despise yourself. You despise yourself. Generally, that has to do with, I would say, one of two things. One is bad repeated choices that you know are bad, that downward spiral. And then the other one is there's been some lack of love in an informative time of our years when we're growing up, where we feel like we're not worthy of love. That's so a converse to that would be, appreciate of yourself. Let me read my thing and then we can talk. If you know,
Okay.
because I just jotted down some quick notes. I said, without self-love, our love to others in this world will be a type of codependence where we sacrifice perhaps our personal integrity to please another, which spirals into more self-loathing. So there needs to be an identity shift in seeing ourselves as godlike. We're godlike children who got lost, and in that loss wandered away from home, and oftentimes were hurt or misled, or and thus developed habits into harmful behaviors. So we must change this point of view. So the past is the past. God is forgiving. We have to stop seeing God as this judge, as this sadistic, cruel judge, who's like almost taking great pleasure in us screwing up. Where God is forgiving, and what we've done is the past. It's over, and we are godlike. We are like children. We are subject to mistakes, and in those mistakes over lifetimes, we've made bad choices that have become habitual. But God forgives. If you turn your life over to God, to Spirit, to Krishna, and you say, God, I'm ready to change my ways, God will embrace you. And it's not that if you and then if you go against those ways, God's not kicking you down a flight of stairs. He's standing at the top of the stairs with his arms open, and a tear is dropping from his eyes. Remember that litter commercial where the Native American is crying? People start pollution. People can stop it. So Krishna's like that. He's sad when we're trying to enjoy the material world because he's there's pain. It's not a real position. And so if you're trying to love other people within this world without that self-love, you become slavish to them. You compromise your own personal integrity. And it's not actual real love. It's a type of codependence that leads you to more self-loathing. And of course, when there's love for self, then we can actually love God, because we love in an appropriate way. And God is the actual repository of our love. Like, people can't accept the amount of love we have to give. It's too much. It's smothering. What do you think?
I mean, I agree in general with what you're saying. To me, we really need to clarify the terminology here. What do we mean by love? What do we mean by self-love? It's a term that, in general, I'm not so fond of, like the term self-love.
Because oftentimes it goes to bubble baths and pedicures, right?
Well,
That's
the
what
point
you're
is, not even that, but just even like, just in terms of what does the term actually mean? Does it actually accurately describe what it's meant to describe? Because, like, the definition of love is an intense feeling of deep affection. And I don't know if I'm meant to have intense feelings of deep affection for myself. My understanding is that, that love is something that one person feels for another person. There's a subject of love and there's an object of love, right? And so what in terms of how we feel about ourselves, I don't know if love, in other words, when we're in a healthy condition, I don't know if I feel that the word love really captures what we're looking for. To me, that has something to do more with self-esteem, right? A healthy sense of self-esteem.
Sure.
And so what you were describing, like a person that, is into this codependent relationship because they have feelings of what did you say? Feelings of unworthiness to be loved.
Lack of self-worth. Yeah.
Yeah, lack of self-worth. Yeah, I agree with you with that. In other words, I agree that if we have, you know, if we are in illusion, right, we may end up on different like polarities, right, where we're like narcissistic and we think we're better than everyone, or we might be, you know, having these feelings of unworthiness, and neither of them are based in truth, right? When we're talking about yoga and yoga philosophy and stuff, the whole point is we're trying to get to truth. And so I accept, you know, I've invested my faith in these yogic teachings that they're presenting truth, and the truth there is that we are composed of spiritual energy, right? That we are made of, you know, beautiful illuminated spiritual energy, you know, that's eternal, that's full of wisdom, and that's blissful by nature, you know, and we're quite capable of being like uh beautiful in every way and wonderful in, you know, it just, you know, but that's become covered by this external identity that we've adopted. Now to me, a healthy attitude is that I get it, that underneath all this, I am that pure spiritual energy, and what I'm expressing externally may be more or less healthy. But the more that I understand that truth, and if I understand that truth, if I understand I am spirit, it doesn't mean I have an intense feeling of affection for myself,
Mm.
you know, but it means that I'm not caught up and lost in this, you know, like I'm not being I'm not being distracted by thoughts of whether they're um narcissistic thoughts or whether they're like self-condemnation, right? Like self-praise or self-condemnation. I'm kind of free from either of those, right? And I'm really kind of focused on understanding, okay, I am pure by nature. Now let me serve, right? Now let me serve. As long as we come to that point. So I get it. I understand like what everything that you said and why people use that term, and they feel that it's important that we have like self-love. The term I'm not so thrilled with. To me, the term maybe clouds the issue a bit and doesn't get us right to the heart of it.
Right. To us, self-love would be really taking care of your spiritual life. That's the best thing you could do to love yourself. It's not like you
As
can't
an
say
action,
Radha
rather than
Swami
as an
does
emotion,
not
but you're saying love as an action as opposed to love as an emotion. That's
because
saying
Radha
two things.
Swami doesn't pamper his body with, you know, night face cream and then morning, you know, day cream on his face.
Take cream.
Day cream, right? That doesn't mean he doesn't have self-love. You know, a sadhaka, a person who's dedicated to their sadhana, that's real self-love, where you're like excavating your heart on a regular basis, being reflective, internal. That's what real self-love is in our dictionary.
Yeah, you know, there's that that saying that's said about humility sometimes, is that humility doesn't mean that you think less of yourself, but it means that you think of yourself less. Right? You're not just all
Mhm.
kind of caught up in with, I need this, I need that. Why am I not getting this? Why am I not being respected this way? Or I can't wait till I am respected this way, or I'm enjoying being seen this way or perceived this way. A healthy person is just really not caught up. They're kind of past all that, right? They feel secure, right? They feel secure in understanding I am spirit, aham brahmasmi. There's a feeling of security in that. And from that stability, one can act in, you know, according to their nature, and that's healthy. So I get it. If you don't have that, and if you're messed up with illusory ideas that I'm unworthy, then it will be hard to love
Right.
someone else, or to love God.
By the
You
way,
know,
if you do suffer from stuff like that, very normal nowadays, very normal. A lot of
sure.
us grew up in broken families where that is sort of like, it's sort of like or seeps rather into our very DNA of our self-identity. It's just basically not true. And there's no amount of validation that the whole Zoom, all, 80 or 100 people from Zoom can go around and hug you and make you feel whole. There may need to be some psychological work with a trained therapist, or a 12-step recovery group like we have our Bhakti recovery group, is to redevelop that sense of self-worth. And because we're not worthless. And if you have adopted that principle, you should understand we already have our worth from the time we're born because we're part of God. And choosing worthy activities, making healthy choices, that increases and snowballs. It gets our self-worth, our self-confidence, and our self-esteem. And whereas poor choices will lead to just the opposite of that. So if you feel like this is an ongoing problem for you, I'd highly recommend check out bhaktirecoverygroup.com, or a 12-step program, or work with a therapist, because it's going to interfere with your bhakti practice as well. Hello?
Okay.
Hello? You there?
We
Okay.
do. Are you suggesting that I do that right now? Okay, right now.
Right now, Kastuba, you
All
go
right.
there. You're
Okay. You know, I'm thinking back on when we had Danya on the show one time, and a similar question was asked about, I think, self-care was the term that she was responding to, and she kind of like drew what I felt was a really good distinction, where she said that, like, when it comes to self-care, like if you know, what's the difference, you know, where do we draw the line between pampering oneself and really getting deeper into bodily consciousness, and like, in one sense, very unyogic activity, and then, you know, but what is like something that's healthy, and she kind of said, you know, like, if there's something that's restoring my nervous system, you know, then that's helpful and it's healthy, you know, and it helps me to think clearly and to serve, you know. And it's another thing if it's kind of like, oh, I need some pampering now, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Good. Good morning, y'all. This is from Adrian via email. Adrian, you think it's a boy or a girl?
I don't know.
It's one of those could be either things. Good morning, y'all. I'm an other. So if you don't know what an other is, that's a person who's not on Zoom regularly. There's much more others out there than there are Zoomers, but there are Zoomers. And there's people that do both. We call them Zothers. I'm an other who has found this podcast rather late. And due to my compulsive behavior, I started lasting in sequential order.
Maybe that's supposed to be listening
in sequential order until I'm caught up. Everybody does that. They go, okay, I heard this thing. Now I'm going to go back to the beginning. That's pretty cool. I appreciate people do that. Until I'm caught up. And I'm a letter carrier for the post office, walking about 13 miles a day for 8 to 12 hours. Wow. You can listen to a lot of Bhagavatam. By the way, forgive me if I've made any offenses to you in all those Bhagavatam classes, Adrian. I was introduced to Krishna via the hardcore scene. Interesting. My friends had found a deity painting at a thrift store in Phoenix where I was living. I saw it and was fascinated. I wanted to just keep it with me to meditate on, but they took it away as we were all God-free, vegan, straight edge. Oh, brother, I guess that was a thing. We're God-free. What a sad club to join, the God-free club. Anyway, after a few days, I forgot all about this painting. And after a few years, I turned to Maya. So he was God-free, vegan, straight edge, but then he got into Maya.
Okay.
Indulging in nihilism and whatever would come to me. I've never been addicted to hard drugs, but I liked them when I found them. Oh boy. I was never an alcoholic, but I couldn't keep a bottle full for long. I didn't even really care what I was eating either. Because of my own shortcomings, as I've been more of a well-intentioned survivalist than a strong human being living in this world, I've never developed strong relationships or strong skills. I just don't know what I have to offer. COVID really hit home when I found myself with a silent cell phone, except a few calls by my mom. But those couple of years really helped me zone in on where I was and what I was doing. I went vegan cold turkey. I stopped drinking again and getting into new habits. I was unintentionally seeking to be more sattvic, right? You don't even know what the word sattvic means, but you start engaging. Sometimes we get so dirty with dirty habits. We're just like, I've got to get cleaner. We just give it a different name. I was meditating and recently learned a Kriya yoga technique. I knew new things were still to come.
Okay, let's just pause for a second. There's a little bit of a life arc going on here, right?
Yeah. So he was vegan, straight edge, God free.
Right. And had some spiritual inclination that the friends kind of shot down.
Yeah, his friends were like, "No, we're God free. You can't worship a blue boy."
Okay, and then even the vegan and the straight edge thing was kind of dropped,
He dropped
and
that,
we're
attracted
going
to
a
nihilism.
little bit darker. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then COVID kicked in, and so you know what? Those people that maybe were kind of like influencing me in that way, they're really not my friends anyway. Like they kind of just like dropped me like a hot potato, right? And
You
then
know,
and that
the-
maybe created the room to say, actually, I want to take up a healthy lifestyle, even without knowing it. They were seeking sattvic, pure energy, clearer thought, cleaner living.
well, it's like vegan straight edge is like it's like having like these restored vehicles where the outside can look really nice. It's a 1956 Chevy, blah blah blah, but the engine's a mess. You can't drive it. So it's sort of like we can clean up our external behavior. I don't drink any smoke. I don't party anymore. I don't consume animal products, but internally, if I'm not working on my ego, if I'm not working on my inner critic, which criticize myself and other people, if I'm resentful, if I seek revenge, after a while, you can be in a club of those people and you'd be disgusted by it because it doesn't leave you feeling wholesome, connected, and light in the heart. And so it sounds like he lost a taste for that community.
Or COVID kind of separated, and then it gave
Right.
that space. Okay, so now he's kind of
Enters Joe Rogan.
okay. Now he or she is living a bit more of a cleaner life.
One day I'm listening to Joe Rogan and he mentions Ragu. I liked what he said, so I immediately searched Ragu to find out what's up. Man, I can't believe all I could have been learning all those years if only I followed my heart and stood up to my friends. Isn't that's a big statement right there.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard, according to our community, to say, you know what, I don't agree with this.
But the
Even
years
something that
pass
sounds
by, right?
like wow, you don't drink, you don't smoke, you're a vegan. But still, it's like a peer pressure almost, perhaps towards healthier things. But unless we develop a little self independence, oftentimes we're just led by the masses.
Okay.
I feel like there's a cap in my spiritual life that wouldn't take long for me to reach.
I think that means, in other words, how far
Oh,
can I
no. I
go?
skipped the paragraph.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
So my question is this: what can I do for Krishna? I have a fickle heart, but I'm attracted to him. Or I wouldn't be listening about him for 10 hours a day. I have no skills that I could offer to service him in this material world. Is intention enough? I
Interesting.
feel like there's a cap to my spiritual life that wouldn't take long for me to reach. Sorry to make this long. Thanks for all you do. Adrian, what a sweet, vulnerable, honest letter that a lot of us can relate to. Thank you for sharing that. You want to go first, Prabhu?
Okay. I love the question, as you say, and it's such an interesting one. Ultimately, it's saying, here's my life arc. I've gone up, I've gone down, I've come back up in a sense, maybe in a better place than they've ever been in their life, where they're open-hearted and open-minded to begin to practice bhakti. But what do I know? Like I haven't been trained in bhakti, and even in material life, like I may not have any. I get it. Like I don't know what I would be doing it right now if it wasn't, for if I wouldn't have found the path of bhakti, because I didn't really have any skills or anything either.
Yeah.
And so then you find yourself in this place where you're really ready for it. I mean, when you're hearing this much, I'm listening to 10 hours a day to Srimad Bhagavatam. It means something inside you is churning for real, right? Something the insights are growing in you, and determination, or the feeling that I want this, I
You're putting
want
a
that.
magnifying glass on yourself, and you're wearing a new set of lenses into the world. You're gonna see things different. It's gonna make you act differently. It's gonna make you make different choices. You can't help but having it affect you.
Yeah, and now this is an important distinction. Let's talk about this for a second here. Now, when we say the word bhakti, now Srila Prabhupada, he translated the word in a particular way, and he translated it commonly as devotional service, right? Devotional service, as almost like when we say love. when we were just discussing love with the previous question, at one point you were speaking about love, Raghunath, as like a feeling that someone has, and then later on you're using the same word to describe more like an action that one does, right? And so Prabhupada kind of he kind of was prone to often to use the term devotional service to refer to bhakti, and I believe he did that very intentionally, right? He had a purpose in that. Now, if you were to go back 1,000 years to like an important figure in bhakti like Ramanujacharya, my understanding is when he uses the term bhakti, he's speaking more about the internal feeling or meditation that one has, right? Not he's not, he would be less prone to define the word as like devotional service. And I just want to bring that up in this context because what Adrian is saying is like, it seems like I don't have any external skills to practice bhakti. And what I'm saying is that ultimately what we're talking about is the feeling that we have. And I think Prabhupada is intentionally describing it as a service because he knows that in this day and age, especially if we're not engaged in a particular service, it'll be difficult for us to enter into that mind state. We won't sit alone and meditate and feel that. When Ramanuja speaks about, from what I've heard, right? Of course, I don't read Sanskrit and so on, but from what I've heard from those that have read his books that do, that his idea is that you do, perhaps in life you have your responsibilities and you take care of those and so on and so forth, and we can call that karma yoga. And then at a certain point of your day, you sit down and then you practice bhakti. You go into a deeper meditation, on your loving sentiments that you have. So that's what we're trying to get at, and ultimately. But even if we say devotional service, think of devotional service in the sense that anything that you choose to do for the pleasure of God, that's devotional service. So that means even like picking up some beads and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, if we're doing it because I want to please you, then that is devotional service, right? Performing kirtan, singing Maha Mantra, for the pleasure of the. I remember it. One time I was very new, to this whole path, and I was with my guru, and I was in a room with him and someone else, maybe a few other people, I forget. And at a certain point, they left the room that I was in. I was in a room that had a little altar and with some deities of Radha and Krishna on it. And he turned to the others and said, "Okay, let's go and meet about something." And as they were leaving, he said, "Yeah, let's go and meet." And then he said, "In Kastuba, you can stay here and chant for Krishna's pleasure," like that, right? And I hadn't really thought about it. I thought like I'm chanting for my own purification or something, like that. That's how I understood it.
Right.
He said, "Chant for Krishna's pleasure." And then I understood, that was a clue to me to kind of like, oh, there's, that actually we please Krishna by expressing our devotion in this way.
Sentiment, yeah.
So that's there. I just want to put that onto the table, that when you read Bhagavatam, you can do it to please Krishna. It is devotional service, right? When you chant Maha Mantra or do any of these standard devotional activities. Now you're looking, and I get it, that you're looking for something more than that. I don't seem to have the skills. I'm seeing other people that can do certain things as devotional service, and it seems like I don't have anything to do. You can do these fully integrated activities like hearing and chanting as devotional service. You can, as you go through life, you may begin to see how the other things that you do, the things that are not necessarily naturally integrated, like your job or caring for family members or certain, helping friends and so on, that those can also be done for the pleasure of Krishna. In bhakti, it's a question of aligning everything that we do with the purpose of pleasing God. It becomes devotional activity. It becomes devotional service. So I think maybe you're living a little bit isolated away from a community that can figure out a way to naturally engage you right now. We want to develop this, something that we're focusing on is we as a Wisdom of the Sages community, we want to start this Sage Engage where we really kind of like reach out to you and get your resumes of the things that you can or would like to do, and see if we can help find you some engagement. But even if if that we haven't started that up, or even if we had that and we couldn't quite find something for you, I think what you're doing now with your hearing, with this very enthusiastic hearing of Bhagavatam, you combine that with some mantra chanting, with some chanting a certain number of rounds of Maha Mantra every day, you're engaging in very powerful deep devotional service already. And you want to find a way, like, more externally, that you can serve. It will come. It will come. If because it's your inner desire, Krishna will fulfill it. I believe that that's true. So you may not be able to see it right now, but it'll come. And I don't know how old Adrian is. Like when we're in our mid 50s or almost late 50s now. Right? We're about to.
Yeah, we can only say mid 50s for so long.
For another month or two.
Yeah.
When we hit 57, but as a 57-year-old, I look back at my life now and say, like when I was 30, you're almost thinking, well, it's too late to learn this or too late to learn that. It's not. Like,
it's not.
No, you can put, when you're 30, you could put 10 years into learning a devotional art or devotional service. And then you're 40 and you have the whole rest of your life to do it, right? Yep. It's like, don't think that it's too late to learn. If there's something that you're interested in that you think you could use to serve Krishna, learn it, right? It changed the course of your life. If you have that room, if you have that space to do it, don't think that it's too late, because it's probably not too late.
Yeah.
So those are some thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts, though.
Actually, I liked what you said, and I think sometimes people do think that devotional service means, no, I must be doing something like a yoga teacher. But I think that for a mailman who's dealing with the world, you meet people every day, and you could be a shining example of how to treat people, how to speak to people, how to lift people in a few words. What a great art. How can I lift a person's spirit just in a few words from living a God-centered life? My mechanic, I got a little dent in my truck and I had to bring it in, but the guy's a Christian, and you could just tell by everything this guy that he's a God-conscious person. Just the way he speaks to me. I went to pay him with a credit card. He's like, I don't accept credit cards, but just take the car, pay me, come back tomorrow. Like, he doesn't know me, he just trusts me. He's just got like I can tell the guy's a spiritual person. You can do that. You can set
cheating on his taxes, though. Just kidding.
No, he wants a check. He doesn't want cash. He doesn't want cash either. He just wants a check.
All right, just kidding.
Give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. No, he's a sweet
no,
guy.
This is a great point, Raghunath. Yeah. I really like. In other words, within your heart, what we really, I want to serve you through all my words, through all my actions, right? And so that's really, how can I live like a saint? It doesn't mean some devotional service doesn't necessitate, or require that we have some particular skill, right? It has a lot more to do with our internal. He said his intention is enough. In one sense, it is. In one sense, it is. In one sense, it's all about our intention to serve.
Yeah, intention is a lot.
Yeah, because even if you have that intention, you can't do it. It's as good as, now if you have intention and you can do it, but you don't, that's another thing. But
okay, all right, let's go on.
Okay,
look who's here. It's Sherry Yannick, who's live here on Zoom. She says, I've been wanting. She's from Oceanside, California.
I think you're skipping
she wrote
one.
this in.
Although we could do that one next.
Okay, let's just do Sherry because I started.
Okay. Yeah.
She's from Oceanside, California. She's a regular Zoomer. Mm-hmm. That means she wakes up pretty early.
This is a question for you, Raghunath, so I'll read it to you.
Oh, all right. Hit me.
Right. So Sherry asks, I have been wanting to return to India since I had my daughter 4 years ago. And she really wants to come with me. Oh, wow. That's nice. I haven't been to some of the more traditional pilgrimage sites and wanted to plan a trip in a year or so. Any suggestions for places or things to accommodate? I would love to join Raghu, but not sure if joining a group is the best thing for a small child. What about small children in India, Raghunath? You've done it.
Well, my my little guy had every birthday of his in January up till he was 6, from 1 to 6 in India.
Hmm.
But he was a little kid, and Tarun's a little bit of a loving handful. It really depends on the nature of the child. At least for, say, my pilgrimages, we had 2 13-year-olds and a 10-year-old, and we loved having them on this trip. And they were like sort of went with the flow of everything. They had their grandmother with them as well, but it was great having them. I've had my kids have gone. I didn't let them go till they were 10. But I think Amalini went when she was younger than that.
Amalini was great when
and she was
she,
great, but some kids, and it's not a judgment, because kids are kids. Some kids just like need more attention, or they just lose their cool, and so you have to know the temperament of your child, really, or else yes, that can get in the way, and you have to be on it, and you have to watch your kid. That also. So, just like Pupe and Parasto, and Mitra, they brought their grandmother for their mother, or their mother, Pupe's mother-in-law, to just like head up the kid program. But the kids were great anyway. But it just sort of depends. And also, traveling is extra hard with a kid. I just know from traveling around India, sometimes their kids can be a little bit more needy, or they need to be a little bit more stable, or sometimes if they have a health issue, it can be a little problematic. But
as a
hard
witness,
to say. It's hard to
Yeah.
say. It really depends on the temperament of the child.
I would say as a witness, because I don't have children, but I've witnessed people coming with children, including yourself.
Yeah.
And, I'd say there's pros and cons, right? Like, I'd say the cons are as if you want to use that time for, kind of like deepening your own meditation, it can be distracting, right? You're carrying a lot of responsibilities with you, and you're carrying a lot of, in a sense, a loving burden, but a loving burden, but a burden nonetheless, right? You have to become very concerned for the welfare of someone else and their child. So it's not always fully rational and easy to deal with, right? So that's
Right.
there. And that can be a drag, it can be a drag. But on the other hand, like what I've seen is that there's such a joy when you see your child, exposed to these wonderful places and wonderful people and wonderful ideas, wonderful experiences. It's such a joyous thing for the parent. It is devotional service for the parent. And I think in terms of the relationship, it must do so much to kind of like frame your relationship within a devotional context, which you might struggle for years and years and years to do. And maybe, a trip to India is a way to really jumpstart that, or really increase that your ability to be able to do that, right?
Sure. I mean, one of my greatest joys in my life have been to take my kids on pilgrimage every year, so they could just, and it just resets the idea of what normal is: the worship of the deity, the bathing in the Ganga, the bowing down, the taking of prasad. These are like, beautiful things that they think is normal. Like last night, we all sat down, we had kirtan together, and it was very normal. It wasn't a weird thing to have kirtan.
But if
Like,
they've never been to
okay,
India,
stop what you're doing. We're gonna, my son picked up the mridanga. He was very happy to do it. He stayed later and was playing some stuff, and so it's one of these things we want to make, because culture's got a normal for us, and you got to be careful, because their normal sort of drifts us away from our real spiritual connection very often. So we have to like instill a new normal for these children, and we have to make it a joyful experience. So you could do it, when they're 5, and you could also do it when they're 10, when they can take stuff in, remember things a little better as well. But it is a joyful way, and you definitely, like Kasuba was saying, have to reframe what spirituality is. If your spirituality is, I want silence, I want to go deep, I don't want to see any, right? That's one way of looking at spirituality. Another way is, can I completely love this child in a holy place and support this person in a holy place? And I had to do that. I mean, parenting is that as well. It doesn't seem like I can't sit through this whole kirtan now because this kid's losing it, and I get anger. I have to reframe what love is, taking the child to the kirtan, trying your best. There's a lot of lessons just within trying your best with an irritable child that parents learn on a regular basis that you miss out on by not having children. So you're in a good place and you have a great desire, and it can be done.
Yeah. I think it's likely healthy in general that children get to see different worlds and different types of people and so on. And what to speak if you're trying to expose them to bhakti, training children, some of it's didactic, right? Like some of it's like, here's the information. I know what you don't.
Learn this.
Here it is, learn it. But a lot of it, maybe more of it, is kind of like directing them into areas where they can learn these things for themselves and develop their own thoughts about it. And so to expose a child to like another world, very different, the one that they're living in every day, where everybody's into bhakti, and
go to Mayapur for a month. Live in the Mayapur temple for a month.
Yeah,
or while the child's young, and while the child they don't care if you miss a month of school in kindergarten. Go for 2 months if you can. Live in Mayapur for 2 months. That's what Vishwambar did with his kids this year. He just took he and his wife took all 3 kids to Mayapur.
I think they moved.
You're just going to live in Mayapur for a year. What a great!
Just 1 year.
Yeah, just a year. I think just a year.
I see. Okay,
I'm not positive.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, what a great way. I might have to die, take birth in that family.
I don't know.
Vishwambar could be my father. Well, it depends. Die quick.
So and I'll say something that maybe you're not comfortable saying, but I would recommend, I would say if I had a kid, I would want to take it on a trip just like one of Raghunath's trips. Like I think that would be the best way to do it. You're going to get a lot of support that way. You're going to be able to expose a child to a lot of things that you're not going to be able to pull off on your own. And something that he's done for so many years. He knows how to curate it well.
Well, thank you.
And you have the experience of doing it with kids. So
I had a great time with Asher. Asher is the son of Pupe, one of my oldest students.
Asher. And
Asher was 10 years old, and he was such a great kid. He was just like, he's a kid. He's a kid growing up in California. And, sat down and just sort of like started learning how to play cartels and was playing cartels every time. He played the mridanga. It was like perfect rhythm, and just had, would walk with me and lead a group of people down in Govardhan Hill. And, was inquisitive. It was so great to see him step into a whole new spiritual life and world. And it was like my honor, actually, to have him with me. Shout out to Asher.
Well, shout out to the birthday girl, too.
Oh, Amalini. Shout out to the birthday girl, Amalini, who also came on pilgrimage and was just like, no, I said to Urugaya and Damodar Priya, her parents, I said, hey, they said, can she come? She's not 10. I think she was like 8 or 7.
She was 8.
And I said, can she be well behaved? We're going to Badrinath. That was the trip. We were going to go to Badrinath, and it got rained out. She's like, she will be well behaved. And I just trusted Damodar Priya's words. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, she was like impeccably behaved. Sometimes like it's not some kid's nature. That's okay. I'm sure I wasn't.
We were in so many circumstances where we're waking up really early, we're staying out really late, we're going all day. And I was always thinking like, okay, the meltdown's got to come sometime soon. Right?
Never came.
No. Well, there was that one day I think in Muggy Bihari got a little wild, but other than that, she was incredible. And even there, I was breaking down too.
Yeah, the adults break.
She was 6. She was 6 then, Raghunath.
She was 6. Oh,
yeah, she was 6.
How old is she now, Damodar Priya? Put on.
I mean, I really fell in love with Amalini then too. I was just like, what a wonderful girl,
Yeah.
She's 11
Today's
now.
her birthday.
Yeah.
She's 11 now. It was 5 years ago.
All right. Next question. It's Megan from Pittsburgh. How does a swami become a swami?
Mm-mm.
And what's the difference between a swami and a sannyasi? And lastly, how is that different from an acharya? I've tried to look up what makes one a swami, and the information felt limited.
Okay.
Question. That's a very good practical question.
Good fundamental practical
question.
Yeah,
fundamental question.
Okay.
What's a swami, Kastuba?
Well, swami means a master. All right. Swami means master. And so when we call someone a swami, or sometimes we call them Goswami, which means master of the senses, generally we're using this term to refer to someone who's controlled their senses, right? Someone who's no longer being mastered by their senses, but someone who has mastered their senses. I'm in control, right? Control of my habits, in control of my
Yeah.
thought, in control of my words, in control of my actions, my body, my mind, my words. We call that person a swami.
Mm.
When and generally, commonly, the sannyasi is called swami or goswami. So a sannyasi is a person who's taken formal vows, right? It's vows of celibacy. But generally it's kind of like accompanied by like, almost like vows of poverty, sort of, like I'm going to live very simply now. They carry a dunda, which is like these 3 sticks that are tied together, which represent the body, mind, and words being fully renounced or fully surrendered to God, like that. So it's common that we speak of the sannyasi, we call them swami, but not only swami, like only they're called swami. Anyone that controls their senses, we could turn to and say swami,
Or
right?
swamini.
Swamini. Yeah, we can say it as the feminine way to say it. And then the question is about acharya. So achar means behavior. So acharya refers to one who teaches through the behavior, right? Literally, that's what it means. An acharya is someone
I
who's,
never put that together. That's pretty good.
it's they're through their behavior they're instructing, and so, but the word acharya, it's all these words, swami, acharya, they're used in different contexts within different groups. That they may have a different, they may be applied a little bit differently. When we say, like within our, say, in our Gaudiya Vaishnava lineage, in this particular bhakti lineage, when we say acharya, we may be speaking of someone, hey, that person's really an acharya with the way they live. They set such a great example for everyone. But more likely, when we use that term, we're speaking about someone in our lineage who's become a very important figure, right? Like a very important figure. Like with Srila Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta Swami, we call him the founder Acharya of ISKCON. He founded the organization, and founder Acharya means like it's that person's teachings that we elevate, right? That we say, okay, like Raghunath and I may say, well, I'm interpreting something this way. Well, I'm interpreting it that way. We're disagreeing on it. We could look at the founder Acharya's teachings as a way of like trying to align ourselves, because we're both trying to align ourselves with that person's teachings, right? So we might call that kind of person an acharya. And in an ashram, there might be a person called an acharya, someone that's really maybe the most senior person, or but at least like the person where like there's great respect because of what they embody in their life. Within a lineage, there may be important acharyas, or even like a founder acharya, or an acharya that's like, for instance, all these 4 different Vaishnava lineages, bhakti lineages, each one has an acharya, like the person whose teachings it's based on. So acharya is used in different ways. And the question of how does one become a swami? Well, you become one by controlling your senses. Now, how does one become a sannyasi? That's a little bit different, right? And I think the question may kind of be going there too. But someone may take formal vows of renunciation and become a sannyasi, right? Generally, it's done at an older age, right? And they take those vows. But fact is that anyone could become a swami if they say, I don't want to be controlled by my senses anymore. And the best way to do that is you follow. You're following in the footsteps of others who have lived this and lived it well. How should I regulate my senses? What should I accept and not accept? And for sannyasis, it gets even, like, how should I sleep? Should I sleep on a bed? Should I sleep on a floor? How should I relate to others? There's traditions within tradition. There's ideas about how one can regulate these things, and how to apply that. It takes some insight and some guidance. But one could become married and become a swami, right? One could be married and become a swami. One could be old or young, male or female, and become a swami.
Good answer.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I thought we're out of time.
We're out of time. We've got more questions, but we're out of time. We're going to save those for tomorrow, and we're looking forward to it. And thanks everybody for joining us later that I didn't say good morning to. If you're on Zoom, I say good morning to everyone. It's one of my joys. It's one of my joys. Tirza, good morning. Jenna, good morning. Roger Tompkins, maybe I can give you a good morning. Hannah G, Hannah Brinkhouse. There's the
So we're back
music.
tomorrow with more Q&A.
Great. Looking forward to it. Laura Denoya, Rennie Jacobs. Boy, all these people snuck in. Grace Young, Aid Hall.
And people on Facebook.
And all the people on Facebook. Hey, Facebook people, we do this every day. Not Q&A every day, but we do our podcast, our study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And you can join us wherever you get podcasts. You can listen to them. You can binge listen to them if you're a postman or if you have if you're going for a long car trip. Or you can just join us live on Zoom, which is also fun because we all know each other and look at each other's picture and write secret messages and stare at each other's apartments. And you can do that by writing Mara at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com, and she'll give you the secret codes to enter into our little tribe. Also, if you like what we're doing, support us. We're a community-supported podcast, and we depend. We're at your mercy to keep this thing going. And you can make a small monthly pledge of your choice. You go to patreon.com/wisdomofthesages, and all the people giving support financially, we really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, a big thank you from Mika Stuba. And onward till mañana.
Onward till mañana.
Onward till mañana.
How do you say onward in Spanish, Chardonnay?
In Spanish? I can say it in Hindi. Agi, agi.
Age.
Agi, agi.
Age mañana.
Adiamo. No,
Yeah.
that's Italian.